The Battle of Leningrad, which lasted 872 days from September 8, 1941 to January 27, 1944, was one of the longest, tragic, and decisive battles of World War II. On June 22, 1941, Adolf Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, a massive attack on the Soviet Union aimed at defeating the communist country in a short time. Apart from Moscow and Stalingrad, Leningrad was one of Germany's main targets because of its strategic value as a major industrial city, cultural center, and gateway to the Baltic Sea. From the start, Hitler intended to completely destroy Leningrad and cut it off from the Soviet Union. By isolating the city, the Nazis hoped to eliminate one of the largest Soviet economic and military centers. The siege was also intended to cripple the morale of the Soviet nation, which was already suffering from massive attacks on other fronts. In early September 1941, German troops under General Wilhelm Ritter von Leeb managed to cut off all land routes to Leningrad, surrounding the city from the west, south, and north. To the north, Finnish troops were also involved in the siege, cooperating with the Germans, although they did not actively attack the city. The Germans deliberately did not attempt to occupy Leningrad directly, but instead chose a siege strategy designed to drain the city from within through starvation and artillery attacks. On September 8, 1941, the siege officially began when German troops managed to reach the southern shore of Lake Ladoga, cutting off the last supply lines to the city. This marked the beginning of an extremely painful period for the citizens of Leningrad, who were faced with the threat of starvation, heavy artillery attacks, and freezing winter temperatures. In the early months of the siege, around 2.5 million people remained in the city, including 400,000 children. Since the siege began, Leningrad became a living hell for its residents. Food shortages are the biggest challenge. Food supplies within the city quickly dwindled, and official rations provided by the government became minimal. The winter of 1941 to 1942 was the most brutal. Temperatures dropped below -30 degrees Celsius, while the city lacked heating and electricity as energy supply lines were cut by Germany. Thousands of people died every day from a combination of hunger, cold, and artillery attacks. Throughout the siege, the Red Army continued to try to break the German hold around Leningrad. In January 1943, the Red Army launched Operation Iskra, Operation Spark, which succeeded in breaking through part of the blockade on the eastern side of Lake Ladoga. This allowed a safer overland supply route to the city for the first time in 16 months. Despite this, the siege was not completely over, and the city remained in a precarious condition. In late 1943 and early 1944, the Red Army launched a series of major offensive operations that ultimately drove German forces from around Leningrad. On January 27, 1944, the siege of Leningrad was officially declared over. The Soviet army managed to completely liberate the city after almost 2.5 years of siege.